down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
What's going down, Savvy Investors? This is your boy, Steve Van Kallenberg, Savvy Landlord, Savvy Investors International. Well, a great friend of mine, Matt Brill, future doctor, future of success. He's already successful in my mind. Sends me a text. He's like, yo, won't you do a scary story for Halloween? And I was like, okay, I'll do one for Halloween. And I was like, man, I had a bunch of scary stories, but then I always like to end it with a positive. So here we'll drop this one for all you scary people who want scary stories. A little diarrhea moment. Anyway, here it is. I had a lady move into a house. It's not too hood, but a little above hood. I don't know how to say it, but so it's a decent home. Some people wouldn't live in that neighborhood. This gal moves in. We vet her out hard. Does well. Finances come through. I believe that she was, if I can remember correctly, she was moving from another state, which usually is not my friend. I'm not a big fan of people moving out of state. Oklahoma prices are so great that they're just getting a deal, but they're getting ghetto for those great prices. I love it when people like, oh, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 600. They think it's like the Taj Mahal. Yeah, it's priced accordingly to the neighborhood. Anyway, we did the due diligence on this person. Everything checked out. Moved on in. Everything's cool. No complaints, no problems. And so she moves in, all good. Then about 6 months, 8 months into the deal, slow pay. Now, the first 6-8 months, everything was rolling, like everything was fine, no big deal. Slow pay. Then I was like, oh no, you can't slow pay here. So I think I can't remember, I had a relatively new property manager at the time, and I was walking her through the process. Hey, let's negotiate. This is back then when I had a zero policy, working with you policy. So we were like, hey, we'll work with you on the rent. You can pay half of it, this week and then half of it next week. That worked for about 3 weeks. And then she was short on her other part. And, I was like, okay, no big deal, but this is a big deal. You got to go. You don't pay your rent, you got to roll. And this lady understood. She was very pleasant and respectful every time. And that's why we were willing to work with her. Tough times, it happens. Life happens. People make missed payments and people lose jobs. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this lady shows up in the office, slaps down a piece of paper from the local hospital that said her baby had lead-based paint in her bloodstream. Now, let's just get this straight. Now, I've heard it all, not everything, but close to. I have cancer, I'm dying, I need a discount on my rent, or inconvenience me, my AC was. You get it. How you thought about it. It's been said, it's been done. But I've never had anyone roll up with it documented. And I was like, at first, my mind's like, man, I start having a heart attack inside. Well, first I was like, this poor child has lead-based paint. And I'm like, man, next thing you know, I'm like, oh man, I'm going down. Like, the whole empire just ended. I'm being serious. Like, here we go. Sue, kid, I'm on the news. Kid died, lead-based paint, big bad landlord, killed the kid. I'm serious. You know how Satan tries to attack people? This is what his holiday is. Fear. Fear is a motivator to get you out of the comfort zone. Grant Cardone, thank you very much. But I normally, when I get pushed into the corner, I usually get buck wild on somebody. So I really was lost. I didn't know how to handle it. Is it true? Obviously, this had the letterhead on there from this hospital. I know the hospital. And I was like, oh, shucks, what am I going to do? So the first thing that came to my mind is call a friend for help. And just who's done with this before? Well, I call a friend in Indiana named Brad. That's his name. And he took my call. He has several hundred units. He's all elusive about it, but I don't really care. I know he's a great landlord, and he has dealt with the craziest stuff. And I called him. He's like, yep, absolutely. I've done this before. I had this problem. I was like, oh. And so I was a little nervous. And so I was in front of my property manager at the time, was relatively new. So I put my phone on speaker, and he just started telling me what to do. He's like, what's the levels of the lead in the child's bloodstream? And I was like, well, it says blank, blank. I can't remember. It was pretty high. And he's like, that's impossible to have that in such a short amount of time. And I was like, ooh, well, there's my cut and dry case right there. Then he said, where do you get lead-based paint? Either you consume it from exhaust. Lead, not lead-based paint, lead in your bloodstream. Or you're chewing, it could be you're at a field and a kid's eating sand and there's lead in sand. And he says it's very rare that you're going to have to be chewing a lot of paint, chip paint, which that house was completely remodeled when I moved in. So the cool thing is that I learned, this was a scary moment for me, that I learned that in real estate that has occurred something somewhere along the line. And I learned that you need to reach out to your friends. And that's why I love people that are texting me, emailing me, Facebooking me, asking me questions. And I know you're dying out there and you need a friend. And that's me. I'm your friend. It's been done before. I can help you in some form or fashion. So the first thing he said, you need to get her out of the house as soon as possible. And I'm like, oh, cash for keys. I know how that works. And then you do that and then try to get her to sign a release that you're letting her go of her lease early, because her lease was 12 months. And that was one of the reasons why I was like, man, is this lady throwing this down, that she has lead-based paint? And this was, in the beginning, this was through conversations between the tenant and my property manager. But then when I got the documented from the hospital that the child does have lead in the bloodstream, it just escalated. Now, it's a silver bullet for this person. But I realized that if I did go to court and have a case, you'd have to prove that, and you have to prove it in the property. And so he gave me so many great suggestions and peace of mind that to do these certain things. So what happened, this is a great story, is that he told me to go in and paint it. He told me to document everything, take as many pictures as you can. So I had to hustle, get my way back into the property. And we just took pictures on the inside, outside. You just never know what you're going to get into, especially when someone threatens you. She never came out and said, I'm going to sue you. But we got the gist that she dropped this little piece of paper and she probably used her child to get out of free rent. Let's call it what it is. Okay, there's people out there that are on the hustle. And, I got hustled. But again, this is another case I'm in or was in. How do you know? How do you know? You can't prevent this, but you can prevent this by documenting things, protecting yourself. So the gal, we worked and negotiated a deal with her, which I let my property manager handle this because she was in communication with them, with the tenant. And we worked out a way where we gave her deposit back. And we didn't charge her rent for that month. Basically, cash for keys. See you later. And before we released the deposit to her, we made her sign a release saying that she has no grounds of suing us for anything, that we're releasing her from this because of something. So that was it. The lady got hustled on me. But yes, it's a scary story. We got the house back. We triple checked everything, painted everything, and we just kept on rolling. So I don't know if that's a Halloween story, but hopefully it helps you. Whatever you do, go buy assets, write everything down, document, take pictures and video. Don't be faint at heart. When you come across a scary moment, reach out to another landlord, friend, investor. It's been done before. So you protect yourself. Have a great Halloween.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter @LandlordBook and always be buying assets.